Welcome to That Eight, a queer food podcast. I'm your host, Justin Burke, and we're kicking off season 1 with my dear friend, Vanessa Parish, pastry chef, food media specialist, activist, connector, and co-founder and executive director of the Queer Food Foundation. If you don't already know the Queer Food Foundation, you're about to. It's an organization I've quickly fallen in love with, not just because of what they do, but how they do it. They're building real tools and real resources for queer food professionals and other marginalized communities in the industry. This is the kind of work that doesn't always get the spotlight, but it's the work that actually shifts an industry. And watching Queer Food Foundation grow since 2020 has been genuinely moving. And also, you're going to get to know more about Vanessa, a force, truly, someone who shows up with tenacity, generosity, and this deep belief in collective power. Vanessa connects people, folks. Vanessa moves mountains, and I'm constantly in awe of how much they hold and how much they still manage to build. So today, you'll get to know Vanessa, and you'll get to know the Queer Food Foundation, and hopefully you'll walk away feeling a little more informed, a little more energized, and maybe even inspired to support their work. So let's get into episode 1. I'm really glad you're here. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. Before we start talking about the Queer Food Foundation, I want to spend a little time on your culinary career.
Okay.
So can you talk about your early days? Let's talk about pastry chef and how that career evolved. I mean, you're multi-hyphenated, so how did this all happen?
Yeah, I'm from North Carolina. I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I went to school for theater. Can you tell? I went to-
This is I feel like you're saying my story too, because I did too.
It was kind of crazy. I went to school for theater, and then shock, crazy, life twist. I ended up having a emergency vocal cord surgery that completely took out most of my vocal cords. Quality production, and so they were like, "You'll never be able to sing again." And they weren't lying. So I wasn't allowed to talk for like 6 months. And so naturally bored. I'm like, what am I
Wow.
going to do? And so I started cooking. My family has a huge, we're big cooks in my family. We're Southerners,
Yeah.
and I started cooking for my friends in college because no one knew how to cook. So it just became a thing. And I was like, this might be a fun pivot, So I went to
Yeah.
pastry school. I did a whole bunch of side projects, kind of that whole home chef to professional circuit.
Exploring what fits.
Exactly. And then I got my first big girl job as a corporate pastry chef for an unnamed franchise that blew up, which is why I have to say unnamed. And then I got sick of North Carolina for obvious reasons. And I moved to Los Angeles. And then from Los Angeles, it was kind of where everything started to flourish. I got an executive pastry chef job, a specialty pastry director job at these big Michelin James Beard fine dining restaurants.
Wow.
I started working as a pastry consult for a couple of pastry bakery franchises. I got a big media break when I hosted a show for Tasty. So I did a season of that show for Tasty. So I was a Tasty correspondent for a long time. Then that kind of immediate flitter. So then you start working for Food and Wine, Eating Well, BET, all these other crazy things of media that kind of float through and things like that.
I totally get that. I can relate a lot. One of the things that immediately connected me with you was that we have a very similar story.
We do.
Except you started in North Carolina, went to California, and I started in California and made my way to North Carolina.
Right.
2 ships passing us tonight. But you're so right. One media moment, especially in food media, can really open up 1,000 opportunities. I know for me, when it happened, that was during the time where food media was making chefs into celebrities, and there was really no roadmap or guardrails of how you navigate that. I kind of got thrown into it and then not prepared for the opportunities that could come up. And I had to learn. I think I'm still learning. You don't have to take every opportunity that comes your way.
Yes.
So let's talk about your experience when you first put your foot in the food media door and then ran in it.
Well, for starters, food media as it is known today wasn't a thing when I started. There was maybe a few food-based YouTubers, but as far as, like, Tasty didn't exist.
Hmm.
I got into Tasty maybe its first year or 2 of becoming a platform, and then obviously everyone knows from Tasty overhand videos and strategic
Hmm.
film videos, like, that kinda spread like wildfire. So food media, as you know, I was kind of in the beginning stages, so we know no one knew what we were doing. We just
Yeah.
kinda took a formula from other genres and hope for the best. Food media agencies and things like that, they didn't exist. Either you had a restaurant, you were on Food Network, but you
Hmm.
didn't need an agent for food media at that time. By then, you were already a celebrity, so you could just get a typical just
Yeah.
media agent, you know? So, I think I kinda got in the door, but then also kind of pushed out of a window because people didn't know what to do with me or do with
Yeah.
any of us really, because there was not a roadmap of like PR firms were not doing food. Like
Hmm.
it was cute if they had someone do like an editorial or like New York Times or things like that, but personalities were not a big thing back then. So I think that
It's
was the
also
hard part.
also too, sorry to interrupt you. It's like
No, I agree.
when food media was emerging, it was also at the same time social media was
Yes.
just becoming a thing, and no one really knew how to allow the two to intersect
Hmm.
or how to use social media. And so it all kind of got jumbled. So you're absolutely right. Like I agree with you. It was kind of we were all playing pretend in a way.
Really, and there was just food TV, and obviously,
Hmm.
as we all know, food TV and food social media and food digital media are all 3 very different things,
Yes.
and so
Yes,
food
they are.
TV was trying to translate itself into this media platform, and then food media is trying to translate itself into the food TV platform, and they're both missing the mark.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I can speak for my experience. I would love to hear your experience in
Sure.
those beginning days, the before times of food media. They really liked to make everyone, no matter what you look like, where you're from, your identity, they all wanted us to fit into one perfect box. That usually meant not disclosing your queerness. I would love to talk about how we were forced to keep it silent, but how we were a little persistent, as our community is, of still sprinkling it in. And then where it is now, where we're proactively pushing it to allow the authenticity of each person to show. So, what was it like
I
for
I
you?
love this question. So, I'll probably say a little bit of it was my fault. I'll say that much because I was in Los Angeles.
Hmm.
So all they wanted was the check marks, like
Hmm.
black, queer, pastry chef, check, 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 check. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's all they wanted at that time. But I didn't want to do that because I know, like you said, what happens when you give yourself too many check marks. They
Hmm.
they um they kind of feed off of you a little bit. You know what I mean? And also, I was new to media. I'm a Southerner. My family is watching, like I don't,
Yeah.
there's a lot of those things. If I tell people on the internet that I'm queer in this capacity, am I going to get a phone call from my grandma? You know what I mean? Like that
Hmm.
was
Yeah.
something I really
Yeah.
rapped with. So one of the episodes of my Tasty show, they mentioned my now ex-girlfriend. They mentioned her. And I remember
Hmm.
going back and forth with my producer about keeping that clip in.
Yeah.
Cause I knew as soon as they mentioned her in that clip, I was gonna get phone calls. I was gonna get yays and nays. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. But I was like, you know what? It exists. Like I'm like, it's not like I wasn't already on social media. And like, if anyone wanted to really find out who I was, if they could Google it really quickly and probably find out
Yeah.
anyways. You know what I mean? So that was a risk. I took a lot of risks.
It's also a lot of responsibility, not only for yourself, but that moment we say it out loud and allow that part of us to be visible, it is a responsibility for our community.
Mhm.
We're one of the few and far between who can show what our lives really are,
Yeah.
unlike what mainstream media, even before media, has tried to say who we are, but that isn't the truth. So it's a lot of responsibility too.
And I think that's a big reason why I feel like social media was okay with like pushing the envelope because we weren't
Hmm.
mainstream TV. I think that
Right.
was kind of what they wanted from it sounded like back then, that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to push unconventional expectations of food because modern TV wasn't doing that. They had their cookie
Right.
cutter chefs and their cookie cutter shows and nothing I wouldn't say I mean nothing alternative. They didn't have younger people on there.
Yeah.
They didn't have Black people on there. They definitely didn't have queer
Hmm.
people on there. If they were queer, they were closeted. Like that was the celebrated motion.
I mean, think about the early seasons of even Top Chef. It's on Bravo, but those early seasons, us as viewers had to decode. I'm like, are they queer?
Mm-hmm.
Are they representing me? And I almost feel speculation and that assumption is way worse than just saying,
Sure.
and allowing the person to talk about who they are. It's crazy to think about where it started. I mean, it's not perfect yet, but we have made big steps
Mm-hmm.
forward of allowing visibility, authenticity, and giving the person the autonomy to talk about how they want to talk about it.
Within means, because then you have brands and then you involve brands. And so
Correct. And then that gets,
then,
yeah, let's talk about that.
because then brands they have their branding, they
Hmm.
have their visual, they have what they want you to say, what they don't want you to say. I've seen it many times. People go like, do I stand on business or do I lose $50,000?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of those conversations because each brand has their own look of what they even want you to represent them as.
Yeah.
Even if they call you and they know exactly who they're calling and they know and
Yeah.
you're very transparent about your imaging, they will still try to box you in.
Exactly. And I think too, I mean, even the due diligence of the creators, the people, the talent, I have learned to ask the hard questions up front. Like, what are your values? What are your missions? Can you tell me a little bit more about the brands? What do the teams look like? What organizations do you support? I've kind of drilled them because I have worked with brands where I thought that they were on my side and they stood for the same morals that I stood
Mm-hmm.
for. And then months, years later,
Mm-hmm.
they do something. You're like, oh, now I'm associated with that, and nothing goes away on the internet. I'm like, I'm forever going to be associated with that, and
Yeah.
that really sucks, and it's really disappointing. It's hard.
No, no, I mean, and honestly, we'll get to later, but my organization, we actually have an ethics clause that we make any organization or business that we work with sign because of that right there.
And I think that's a perfect
We learned the hard
segue.
way.
Yeah, we learned the hard way. I think that's a perfect segue. Let's start talking about Queer Food Foundation.
Sure.
Can you just explain for those who are unfamiliar with it, what is Queer Food Foundation? What do they do? Give some history of how it got started and how it's evolved from those early days.
Oh, evolution. So I know. Okay, so I'm gonna go backwards. Okay, so basically during quarantine, I was as a personal individual, I was doing a mutual aid project called Tasty Tutelage. And it was in response to the George Floyd movement. It was response to quarantine. A lot of people were feeling very hopeless. Not very, it was it was a really dark time. I don't think I as much, but I'm also severely immunocompromised. So I couldn't protest. I couldn't be on the streets. Like I had to be indoors. It was very much, I'm not allowed
Yeah,
to go outside. But I also wanted to be a part of a contribution to something that was happening. So I started Tasty Tutelage, which was a mutual aid. So basically, I fundraised money for people to be able to take virtual cooking classes.
I
And
love that.
those that couldn't afford the groceries to attend the cooking classes, that money went to their groceries. So I was
Awesome.
sending Instacarts all over the country for people to
That's amazing.
participate. So it didn't matter who was on the screen. No one knew who had their groceries paid for or who brought their own
Hmm.
groceries. I did it twice a day, 3 times a week for quite some time. So I was sending out different recipes and you grow and it was just for Black joy, honestly. Like I wanted to we
Yeah.
grew this community of people that like people that never cooked before, people that have always been cooking before, strangers from all over the different time zones that were just coming together and just sharing a meal and sharing successes and failures. And so from then my one of my dearest friends, Gabrielle, she reached out to me because she was starting working on some organization stuff and she
Hmm.
was trying to pivot and get her own thing. And other people kind of came aboard, came on. We were trying to figure out what we wanted to do. Like it was a lot of conversation at the beginning of just like, what
Sure.
is this? Which we didn't know. None of us knew what it was.
Yeah.
We just knew that our people were being taken advantage of. Marginalized folks statistically to this day were getting first fired because they're the most underpaid. And no one was talking about it in our industry. Everyone kept talking about food insecurity. Everyone kept talking about how the industry was failing, but no one was talking about the people that the industry was failing.
Correct.
And that was the big problem for us. And so we're like, we'll just start talking, and we'll start bringing new people, we'll start having conversations. And that's essentially kind of where it came from. It came from a mutual aid initiative. All of us are kind of doing our own different mutual aids just in our own respective cities. And
Hmm.
just a whole bunch of people that just wanted to continue the conversation past quarantine.
Love that. I
So
mean,
that's
I
where we
think
are now.
too, I mean, that's the beauty of organizations like this when they form it. I think during the pandemic, there was such loss and such confusion and insecurity, and people's moral compasses were really being twisted and challenged. But I also found some of the most creative, um, honest,
Mhm.
human to human things came from that time. And I always try to be like that glass half full kind of person. And I'm like, all right, well, that was a shitstorm. Something good has to come out of this. And for me, when I first learned about the Queer Food Foundation, it was through the Queer All Year initiative that you
Yeah.
partnered with James Beard Foundation. Prior to that moment, I was knocking down doors being like, we have to talk about the treatment of individuals in the industry. Like, I have witnessed
Hmm.
horrendous acts on marginalized individuals, and then these restaurants and chefs are celebrated for being amazing. And it just really pissed me
Yep.
off because
Hmm.
I kept getting shut down. And I was just like, stop gatekeeping, stop protecting these people and these organizations. And so when I saw this, I kind of cried. I was like, no way this is happening. Like, it's finally happening. Not only is there an organization talking exactly about what I am so passionate about, but it's in partnership with James Beard Foundation, which I had been hoping that they would do more for our community outside of just June and hold really thoughtful, sometimes uncomfortable conversations and facilitate us in the industry talking about it publicly. So, how did that happen? How did this partnership come out, and what has it been like since it launched?
Yeah. Well, again, attribution to Gabrielle. Gabrielle was interning at JBF before Great Food Foundation even started. So she had already
Hmm.
had a pretty good number of colleagues and connections there. And as we all know now, I'm sure we all know by now, James Beard was gay. So,
Yeah.
um,
Surprise if you didn't.
I know, oh my God. I mean, has anyone been to the house? I mean,
Right.
it started because kind of what you were saying. We've been kind of a pivotal moment for I think a lot of organizations that did not know how to hold the conversations and
Hmm.
also didn't want to do it performatively because you also get that too, where
Yeah.
organizations say, well, we want to do this initiative, but we're not going to ask any queer people involved. We're not going to do the proper steps. We're not, they miss the mark. So I tell people
Hmm.
all the time, I'd much rather you just let us do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
just partner with us, let us do it. So also you understand that there's an authenticity, and intention behind it, not just a put your like you said, put your sticker on it in June type of thing. So that's kind of where Queer All Year came from. We wanted to have the conversation because I think at the time people were holding JBF accountable. Like James Beard was gay. You're not doing anything gay. Why? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we were like, well, we're here. Let's just do it together, and that's kind of how that
Yeah.
relationship blossomed. And will be 2026 will be our 5th year doing our Queer All Year series,
That's amazing.
which is
Congratulations.
insane. Um, it also just as a personal for me of like I have a partnership, like my organization has a partnership with JVF. Like that's also
Yeah.
like kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, there's one part of you that wants to be like, oh, like having JBF like recognize me or like get the awards or anything like that. Like, that's not what matters, but also like it means something. Like, there's weight to it. And I think it's okay for us to acknowledge that and say,
Hmm.
like, wow, like, thank you. Thank you for like seeing us and not silencing us anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it just means a lot.
And I
Um,
do take it and run with it. I'm not gonna lie
mhm.
because
Do it. I would.
I grab legends, and I grab folks that are up and coming. I want everyone to be able to be if I have an opportunity to bring people that have not had their name talked about in a space that they've
Hmm.
been past due because they've just been under this marginalized shadow, please let me find them.
Yeah.
I will find something for them to be talked about. Like, that's a big thing for me. We easily have over 500 queer businesses, workers and owners, chefs, food workers in general that we're in network with all over the country. just if I do not know who you are, please come find me or I'm on the way to find you. Like, because
Yeah.
I want to know
We'll
where
find you.
everyone is. We
Yeah.
need to find you because that's how we help each
Yeah.
other. That's how we build the support. We have been limited to access. And I talk
Hmm.
about this all the time, like big hubs, like, progressive hubs like San Francisco, New York, Miami, now more so Atlanta, Los Angeles. They're building their internal communities, right? But when
Hmm.
you're in rural North Carolina, where are you going? You know what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
who are you talking to? I want people to be able to find each other no matter where you're going. That if you can be in South Carolina, there may be a queer owned bar. They may not be out and loud because of where
Hmm.
they are, but you know that it's a queer
Hmm.
owned bar and you know that you can go there and you will have a safe meal. You know
I
what I
am
mean?
so glad you brought this up because when I moved down to the Carolinas, it was like I was no longer part of the queer community, especially in food. I was like, what happened? It's because I don't live in these quote unquote safe haven cities where we have to move to and thrive. In Colombia, when I moved here, I cannot begin to explain how welcoming and supportive the city is of their queer community, of a lot of underrepresented communities. They will put them first before they put anyone else. And there's a lot of pockets here in especially in the South. And I find it discouraging when we're almost pushing the queer community to these very expensive cities and saying you will only thrive and survive if you live here. But the quality of your life, we don't know. And like,
No,
and
it's
so it's
fair.
very polarizing. And what you just said and what you're doing is showing that not only queer all year, so outside of just June, but we're also everywhere outside of the
Hmm.
coastal cities. We exist and live happily, can live happily in any place. And so I love that we just said you are trying to connect, grow this thread, this community, and that's so queer food. And we'll get to this because we have to, but it really is an emotion and there's a lot of depth to it. And it's always
Yeah.
about the how and the why versus the food itself. And
Hmm.
it's community based. It's taking care of one another. So I love that. Like,
I mean,
yes,
and
find them all.
it's also it's I want to find everybody, but also want people to be safe, which is why a lot
Yeah.
of our programming we do is also virtual. We do in persons where we can and where we can afford. I mean, to be honest, big cities can't
Yeah.
afford to host us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But also a lot of people in smaller areas they don't want to leave their house. Not everyone feels as safe, which is why I try to make sure that we kind of have a healthy balance where I was there when I was 17 in the closet, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I was watching the L Word from a little private laptop, you know what I mean? 'Cause, like you never know where people's experiences are. And we try to meet people where they are too. If you're not feeling safe yet, if you're not ready to be in a space where you feel comfortable, it's okay. We have a digital program. We have something you can
Yeah.
find. We have some research that you can look at. We have folks you can talk to virtually. And I think that's important too, because some people need to know that even if they're in somewhere where they do feel alone, even if they're not alone, that they
Hmm.
legitimately are not alone. I think that's a big thing people have to see too when they're looking for their chosen family as well. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's so true. We're not always in a place physically and mentally where we can just access the resources and the education. There's a disservice to our community where we're not educated. We're not educated on gender identity, sexuality. Like it's just not accessible. We unfortunately have to do the hard work of finding that. And sometimes it's hard to find, especially when you are not supported where you are. I love that but there's just so many means for people to access what you all are doing. Like that kind of leads me to my next question
Yeah.
is what's the vision for Queer Food Foundation moving forward? What you can talk about, but also for those who are just now learning about you all, how do individuals access the resources that you offer?
That's a great question. We've been through quite a transitionary 365. Current administration gutted
Hmm.
a significant amount of our funding,
Yeah.
which I think we knew was coming, but I don't think we knew how it was coming. And it wasn't just like it was also private funding too, because we also had a lot of businesses and organizations and corporations just like ghosts. The same people that were calling us in 2020, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? are the same people that were first on the chopping block, which is very telling, in my opinion.
Yep.
Um,
And something we kind of just talked about earlier in this episode.
like it's one of those things. So we've had to refocus our program. We're not doing as much in-person programming just because we can't at the moment.
Mhm.
So a lot of our programming is virtual. So we're still doing the Queer All Year series. We're actually releasing a digital zine in collaboration with an organization called Chad out of Chicago.
Cool.
I'm very excited about it. It's a digital zine about creating safe spaces. It's pretty extensive checklist of when you are curating an event, you're creating an
Mhm.
environment for folks. Are you protecting the people in the space? When you look around, is it inclusive? Is it diverse? Is it ADA accessible? Does it protect people against ICE? Like, who are you protecting the people that you're inviting into the space? And if you don't know how to do that, we have told you. Here you go. So
This is amazing.
it's a really
Yes, this is
fun,
fantastic.
comprehensive digital and will be hopefully in print tool that people can take home. So I think a lot of the stuff that we're working on now resource wise are tools, because we you could take away our money and our access to touching each other and
Hmm.
reaching out a hand, but you cannot take our access to tools. You know what I mean? And so that's
Yeah.
kind of how we've been trying to formulate. We're working on a industry survey to talk about
Hmm.
the food insecurity and workers, because people do not listen. And I know you know this when we say that our industry is so queer. Like, our
So
industry
queer.
is so queer. And not only that, though, we don't have the numbers. It does not exist. I've talked to all the institutes. They do not have the numbers as to how queer our industry is. They don't have the numbers as to where we are. They don't have the numbers to how underpaid we are. Those
Hmm.
numbers do not exist. So we're going to get the numbers.
I love this.
I'm if you can tell, I'm very in the ethos of if they don't have it, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So that's very, like, me coded. So
It's
we're
it's
working on
it's
getting an
so
industry
you. It is
survey.
so you, but it's also so the queer community, like the queer thing to do. Like,
Yeah,
oh, you said no, watch me.
right. It's very much
Like,
like, "Okay, well, I'll do it." I mean, that's really how the organization started. It was like, "Well, we'll do it," you know? So we're
yeah.
doing that. We're doing the industry survey. We do an annual gift guide every year. I think we're gonna
Hmm.
try to twist it up a little bit, but we do an annual gift guide every year to support the small queer-owned businesses around the country for
Hmm.
the holiday season. We try to highlight them. In the last 2 years, we've highlighted over 150 queer-owned food small businesses.
That's awesome.
Um, so this year, I'm hoping we get a couple more to
Yeah.
kinda, upbring. So we're little but big things, that we're trying to make actionable impact. I said people used to ask us all the time, in 5 years, where do you see your organization? And we used to say non existent because our society has improved enough where we don't need to do these things. But since then, I've definitely changed my mind about that of like, I don't want us to be non existent. I want us to be an evolved
Hmm.
resource. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? To meet people where they are in the generations and time which we are serving.
There's always going to be new generations that need access to resources. There will always be people mid-life, mid-career where they're like, wow, I've learned so much about myself in a new discovery, but I don't have the tools. I agree with you. It's not to not exist, but it's to evolve and continue to be this output of resources and tools. I also love the thing that you're doing that's coming out with how to make it a more inclusive space and all these things to think about, because that's part of business planning and business development that is always forgotten about and not
Yes.
talked about. And
Oh,
especially with any black owned, queer owned, etc. owned, not only are you saying that this is, you know, insert owned establishment and that you're welcoming, you're gathering like-minded and members of the community, but are you keeping them safe? Are you keeping
right.
your employees and team safe?
Correct.
And it's sad that we have to think about that, but it's a thing. And I think what you're doing is being proactive, being like, fine, we're going to give you the tools, we're going to support you so you know what to do if something happens or how to avoid something from happening. Love that. I hope
And,
everyone gets access to this.
I do, and it's an accountability thing too. Like we did a partnership with JVF last year about equity and hospitality and
Hmm.
holding owners, leaders accountable. I get questions often of like, when you have non-binary folks, non-conforming folks, queer folks in a space where there may be multi-generational employees. You're right. They're like, well, I don't know how to like get the old guys in the group to like get on board. And I'm like, you have to get on board.
Hmm.
That's how you get them on board. You don't let their snide comments pass. You correct them. You're using the
Hmm.
proper pronouns in front of them. That is how you get people on board. When they see that their leadership is protecting them and that they don't hold these old, really
Yeah.
old, outdated standards, and that they don't get on board, then they get lost. I mean, it's very easy, you know what I mean? But you are responsible when you are in a space of ownership and leadership to protect the people there. And also your, like you said, your consumer base. I know,
Yeah.
you know, when you walk in a building, you take two looks around. Who is in the building? Is this going to be a safe building for me to patron? And most of us in marginalized communities will can pretty much feel that vibe almost instantly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And we
100%.
leave. Also, if you have people that are walking in your business and walking out, that's a self check.
Yeah. Mm. I love everything y'all are doing. So great. Like,
Thank you.
thank you. I mean, thank you for doing what you're doing because it's hard work and it's so needed.
And we're volunteer run. So we all have full day jobs.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. And I, of course, will have all the links to what you all
Yes.
do and how people can reach out and access the tools or help or support however they can. But I think let's go into the question that we always get asked.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're always asked, queer people in food are always asked, what is queer
Queer
food?
food.
And I actually don't get tired of being asked this because I find that there's not one definition of queer food. It really is reflective of the person and the community that they belong to and their experience. And so I am curious how you interpret queer food. What does it look like for you and what does it mean to you?
I actually I agree with you. I do love this question, even if it does annoy me. I think it annoys me who asked me. I'll say it that way. The
There's
person that's
that.
asking me. You know what I mean? To me, queer food is, well, me and community and responsibility. And queer food is whoever is in service of you with their space, their time, their energy, their food. That is queer food. We are consistently, like I said, we're with chosen families
Mhm.
constantly. We're at chosen family tables, homes, restaurants, and I cannot tell you the joy, which we'll talk about it because we met in person at the Big Queer Food Fest.
Yeah.
Just by happenstance, we were at a queer food fest, right? Fine. But the community and the belonging, and most of us are from different parts of the country,
Hmm.
and we were all in the same building. Like, we have not been in the same building.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were
Yep.
all hanging out and chatting as if though I've never seen you in person, but I'm talking to you as if though I'd had a conversation with you
Yeah.
yesterday. That is what queer food is to me. When you
I mean,
find your people.
I will always remember laying out all my cakes for the like the culinary village, like
Yeah.
part of the festival, and I hear you excited. You're like, "Oh my God, you're here!" And like you would have thought, like outsiders, like would have been like, "Oh my God, these diehard best friends have not
Yeah.
seen each other for like 25 years." And even my husband, Lewis, was like,
Do you know her?
I have not been formally introduced to this person. Who is this like deeply rooted person in your life? And I'm like, this is Vanessa from Foundation. This is our first time ever meeting. But you would have thought that you and I were like kindergarten best friends. We're at each other's weddings, milestone moments of our lives. But you're right. Like that is what queer food is. It's just this connection because to me, our food has safeguarded our history when it hasn't been
Hmm.
well documented. And it's a lot of oral history. And that's just, yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's just so
It's so
beautiful.
radical.
Yeah.
I think it's amazingly magically radical because we also are alive
Hmm.
in a time that
So
actually
true.
has never really changed, where, like you said, we can contribute to that oral history. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So the fact that the question is still being asked, what is queer food, means that we're still here for people to ask us that question.
Yeah.
And that's so badass for me, you know?
Yeah. That is pretty powerful. So, speaking of types of food, you and I both share a love of comfort food.
Love it.
Like love comfort food, but I don't think it's discussed well enough that what comfort food actually is. And I was recently asked what kind of cookbooks I prefer, and I
Yeah.
answered I love an author's version of comfort food. I want to know what comforts
Mm,
them. So, can
I love
you
that.
talk to me about why you love comfort food, what it looks like for you, what it means for you?
My comfort food is ice cream.
Mm.
It is a 365 food for me.
Mhm.
Home is where the scoop is.
I love that.
No, legitimately, I have 3 ice cream scoop I have 3 ice cream tattoos. I'm dedicated. And I use ice cream as my medium because you can put anything in ice cream. I've
Yeah.
done it. And it is comforting, it is familiar, it is safe. I mean, I've had cornbread stuffing and turkey ice cream. It brings you home to the holidays. You know what I mean? Like if you're in the
Hmm.
summertime and you're bringing like strawberries and basil, it brings you and also gets you to know where you are. I always look for a local ice cream shop because local flavors, local produce, and things like that are usually brought to those spaces. And you can get to know the
Yeah.
personality of the comfort of where you are just off of an ice cream shop alone. And so I may be out of my comfort zone, but I can step into someone else's comfort zone. I can also probably find my comfort zone because there's always a mint chip somewhere. I will always find mint chip. And that I'm like, oh, finally, like
Yes.
I'm in the darkness somewhere, but there's a mint chip. Like, it's just one of those things that like you I'll never get sick of it. It's such a chameleon of its
Hmm.
time. And it is very familial. Like my 10-second story. My grandparents met because of ice cream.
Stop. So cute.
So,
I love
like, when I
this.
say it, it's like it's boned, it's
Hmm.
ancestral. My grandparents on my mother's side, it's on my mother's side, they grew up in Memphis, both of them, and my grandmother's pastor owned a malt shop on my grandfather's side of town, and so he would drive the girls to his shop. And my
Yeah.
grandfather was a basketball player, and him and his team would go to this malt shop after practices, and he said that he decided to court my grandmother not only because she was pretty, but she was the only girl in the shop that could make his malts just right.
I love this.
And he walked 5 miles a day to the other side of town to go court her for the better part of a year. And they met up at the malt shop. There is not one house in my family where ice cream does not exist. It is a staple. Like if I know someone is on the way and
It
that's
is
a
like
family
you're right. It
member,
is in your DNA.
it is like who doesn't have ice cream? You will not find one. I can call every single family member I have and ask them, "Do you have ice cream in the freezer?" They're all going to say yes. It's
Yeah.
ritualistic at this point for us.
I love this so much. I love it. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, it's
It's
my
amazing.
comfort. It is. It is.
So I have two more questions for you.
Okay,
One before the last one, obviously, if I said I had two questions.
I love that.
Listen, folks, I have an almost 7-year-old. Sometimes my brain's not braining. So, talking about comfort food, and we were talking about queer food, how do the two intersect for you? Is there a moment where how we establish chosen families sometimes are at queer potlucks or these gatherings? Is there a food that you enjoy that just immediately comforts you but is rooted in queerness
That's a good question.
or
That's a
makes
really
you
good
think of the queer
question.
community?
Okay, great pancakes.
Okay, why? I love this.
Oh, no, no, no. As soon as you did it, okay. So, I told you, like, when I was in college, I was the only one that knew how to cook.
Yeah,
Out of my friends, and I'm the mother of the group. It is what it is. So I've been the DD since college. I'm proud DD over here. And so as a DD, everyone's drunk, and I cooked pancakes in college. 2 o'clock in the morning, Vanessa's making a stack of pancakes with my chosen family because I went to college with nothing but queer women. Bless.
amazing.
So all of my roommates since college, at any point in my life, have all been queer women.
Beautiful.
And I had a chosen family that every Sunday at 10 o'clock, we'd go to IHOP. I don't care what state you're in, what city you're going to be home on Sunday. We're going to IHOP. And we did that for a very long time. So breakfast and then the brunch every holiday when I was in Los Angeles, all the friends of mine that couldn't go home for the holidays, we'd have Christmas brunch at my place. Any friend that couldn't go home during the November season, we had holiday brunch at my place.
It's amazing.
Any new TV show we wanted to watch. Vanessa's throwing on pancakes. We're doing brunch at Vanessa's house. Like it's just been that thing. So that's I think that's been my food. That if I think
I
of
love
queer
that.
people and me, I think of pancakes.
That's amazing. Thank you. All right. Last question. I like to end each episode by spotlighting others within our community. as queer food professionals, I think we can always do a little bit more of lifting each other up and opening doors. So, do you have one or two queer food stars, so chef, writers, food stylists, businesses that you think we should be talking more about, or love to introduce to listeners?
Oh, this is one of the worst questions for me, right?
I know, especially after what we were talking about earlier of like you. I
This is
know.
like, what city, what state? No,
Yeah.
but
Sorry.
no, it's fine, it's fine. Um, I love everybody so dearly, and it's so hard because I don't want to say somebody and then I miss somebody, and then
Yeah.
um, okay. Well, I'll start with this. I'll start with this. I'm always rooting for marginalized intersectional folks in queer food,
Hmm.
because beyond queerness there's also the conversation of racial diversity, religious diversity.
Yes.
There's so many of us in these
Thank you for
intersections,
bringing
right?
this up. Yes, 100%.
There's a lot of us in different pockets, you know what I mean? So obviously, as you know, I'm always going to say Kareem because he's one of my favorite people in the world.
Yes,
As you know, Mr. Bake, if you don't know Mr. Bake,
that's great.
uh, my lovely friend Trent and their business partner Ren, they are doing Babe Wine Bar. It's a really fun pop-up wine experience for queer folks, based in New York at this time. And then, God, I'm trying to think of two of my favorite people on the earth right now, chefs wise. Chef Selassie out of DC and Chef D Anderson out of New York. Both of them actually work for Chef Kwame.
Okay,
D is the executive chef at Tatiana in New York City,
nice.
right? And Flossie is also a professional cook at Doggone in DC, who came from San Francisco as a Michelin chef. There are some people in our industry that are behind the scenes
Hmm.
of other chefs that will be having their own scenes very soon.
And I'm ready
And
for it. I'm like so
I'm
excited to see them.
so
Like, I'm
ready
like
for
fly,
them.
baby, fly. Like, I am like, let's do
Yeah,
it.
every time I see someone get something, or I get an Instagram announcement of something, I'm like, yes, like, I am a cheerleader. So those folks, I would say I talk to them at nauseum. I talk to those people the
Okay,
most.
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I will include their social handles, how
I'll
you
send
can
it to you.
find them. Yeah, like I'm not. We're not just telling you about these people and not helping you how to find them. Also, this is a great way of finding future guests for the show for that eight. So
Yes,
So
yes,
this is fantastic. Vanessa, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me. This podcast has been something that I have been like toying in my head for a while. And, I think it's just time to like get our community together and just hang out and chat and talk about real stuff and like what we're all doing. So
hmm
really
And
appreciate you.
your book, so excited for you. Anytime I see someone in our industry with a book, something tangible for their legacy, it just gives me chills. The epitome of culinary legacy is a cookbook to me.
Really, thank you. I'm really proud of it. And I hope to do more. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm
Yes.
just I'm just letting the universe direct me where I go. I don't know.
Yeah. Let it
Awesome.
cook a little bit.
That's the first episode of That 8 Season 1. You were just listening to Vanessa Parish, co-founder and executive director of the Queer Food Foundation. Please go check them out and please support the work that they're doing. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Take care.